Lydia, thank you so much for being here. It is an absolute pleasure having you at Sacred Podcast Chapter 1. Thank you so much. Lydia is an astrologer, and she goes by AstroVal on Instagram. So make sure you guys follow her. And Lydia, if you don't mind sharing with us your story, how you started. How was Lydia before actually becoming an astrologer? And then walk us through that path, which is so interesting and people love to hear about.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for hosting me, and thank you so much for doing this. I think that, it's just such an honor to be here. Congratulations on this project and on this venture. I feel like life is preparing us since day one to, for what we're here to do. And I really do feel like astrology is a deep calling of mine. So my whole life prepared me for that, Let's see, I was born in Colombia, and I moved to the United States when I was 7 years old with my two brothers and my mother. And it was definitely an opening experience for me to leave everything behind and start fresh. And then, I married when I was very young. I'm in my late teens. Shortly after that, I became very depressed. I felt like life was just not the way that I envisioned it to be. And just life got really tough at a very young age.
Like it happens to most of us, right?
Yeah, and I was looking for ways out. I was looking to feel... Actually, at that age, I really didn't know what I was supposed to feel. I just knew that I wasn't feeling good. And it wasn't until I was introduced to meditation and to Buddhist teachings that it opened up my awareness to, wow, this is what I've been feeling like all of my life. Like there was just something more than what I had been taught. And I began to meditate, and I began to like see the beauty of quiet and peace and of my own essence, of my own being, of my own nature. And shortly after, I got divorced, and I began to find myself in a way. Although I was still pretty much in a journey of the cultural partying and dating and a lot of alcohol, and as I was still trying to look for tools, but I became an alcoholic. I became a heavy partier. And at that point, I also then became, I got to the realization that wasn't going to work out. I was very sad. There was something else that was missing in my life.
Yeah, and I think that's like a common theme, alcohol, and in your society, it's so prevalent, and it's like the thing that you do, and if you don't do it, people look at you weird, and that's happened to me. I actually didn't start drinking till I was 21. So you can imagine as a teenager, and I was a DJ since I was 15. So you can imagine being in the club scene and all these parties, and this guy doesn't drink. What's wrong with him, right? Yeah. So I went through my fair share of emotional bullying because I did not drink. So I can totally relate. But yes, please continue and telling me how that evolved into kind of looking for something more, right?
Totally. So... And I also think that family, culture, was also a huge thing, because that's what we were supposed to do,
oh yes, Colombian background. Yeah.
You wait till the weekend to party. You wait till it's just kind of you live to party. That was kind of how I understood life to be at first. And I started dating, and actually this guy sent me a compatibility report between him and I. Okay. And, an astrology compatibility report. And I was like, whoa. And when I was young, I remember that I used to look up the magazines and, read all these horoscopes, and I was so into it, and I would just want to buy all of these magazines just to read the horoscope in the back of the magazines. But it came to a point that I was just like, this isn't real, just because, I would get bullied because it's what are you doing? That's witchcraft. So I left that behind, and when this guy brought this to me, it opened me up again to that world that I was so attracted to.
Let me ask you a quick question. Now that you bring it up, the regular horoscope that we see like a newspaper on magazines. What is that based on? That's like on your sun, right? Is that what it is? Is that why is it that for some people it's so accurate and for others it's just like, oh, this is fraud? What? Because for me, in my personal experience, the horoscope is like it reads me so well, and then every single time, and then for other people it's like, oh, for me it doesn't apply. What is it that for some people it works, and I guess for others it's totally off?
Yeah, that's huge. That's like something that astrology has really been bringing up now, that everybody's getting to know that they're more than just their sun sign. Because yes, the horoscopes are just based on your sun, on, you're born in a Capricorn, and that's all they know. And like for you have a lot of planets in Capricorn. You have your sun, your moon, like everything is kind of in Capricorn, and so you would identify with that energy.
Okay, that makes sense. Because for me, it's like, exactly. It's like, wow. Okay, cool. Okay.
But for some people, let's say that they could be Capricorn, but they only have like that one planet, the sun in Capricorn, but they have like an outer planet, say Pluto. And
Right.
Pluto brings in a whole nother energy, which is more like a Scorpio energy to that Capricorn energy. And so that just makes them feel more like a Scorpio, more than a Pluto, more than a Capricorn. And then you also take into consideration their moon and like everything else, their ascendant. And that's why it's so important for you to get to know your chart. And that's what happened to me when I began to dive, like, to want to read more about astrology. And then I got my chart and I started dissecting it. And I was like, whoa, it finally gave me a permission slip to be myself.
Nice.
Because I was able to see that there was all of this energy geared towards spirituality, that I didn't think I was meant to do that. I just kept pushing it to the side, because I thought I had to, get a degree in like engineering or computer science and do everything else that, my father or like society wanted me to do. And it's like, wait a minute. I'm so attracted to this, and it's for a reason, and it's here. And so it gave me that permission, which was so beautiful.
That's awesome. No, and I can totally relate. Like when you see something that, and for me, I mean, I've went through different stages of contact with the spirit world. My first one being actually through my mom, because my mom was like is a natural medium. And I went through this experience of literally, and I kid you not, this was in high school, where my mom was channeling. And obviously at the time we thought she was crazy, like, oh my gosh, she's channeling a spirit. What is this? I didn't believe it. I was, 15, 16 years old. For me, that was absolutely crazy. And I was present in one of her channeling sessions. And then I mentally asked a question and she answered and replied. And that changed my world. So I feel that I was lucky enough to have that direct contact with spirit world, that it's almost like you cannot deny it. Because sometimes, thinking, like sometimes we think of something and we're not sure if it's our thought, if it's a message. But when you have something so clear, like you think it, and then they respond like verbally, you're like, okay, wow, what is this? The Matrix. This is a prank. And it couldn't be a prank because I only thought of it. Nobody else knew, right? So that brought hard Zeo into reality and shaking like real reality more than this. So I can relate, like when you get to that experience, like it really shifts, right? Like there's something it opens that door of like, we need to find out what's beyond this, right?
Yes.
So beautiful.
It takes over you. Yeah. It's so beautiful.
That's awesome. So that brought you into astrology.
That brought me into astrology. That began to, I began to study it. Now, it wasn't until later down the road, I continued doing, I took a teacher training, like a yoga teacher training. I began to do like Reiki. I got Reiki attuned. I began to like do energy work. And then I was introduced to plant medicine. And it was through plant medicine.
Actually, if you don't mind explaining to the listeners and the viewers what plant medicine is, because it's like a very broad term, right? Plant medicine can be so many plants, right?
Yeah.
So what is it that at least in your case, what did you have contact with?
In my case, so that was, I would say that plant medicine definitely brought me back to, like, it was it was another stepping stone to my healing journey because, through yoga, through energy work, I began to do a lot of like deconditioning. And when I was introduced to plant medicine, San Pedro, it's literally plants that grow from the earth that are indigenous people have been using for, ever. They're the way that our ancestors used to connect with their spirit, with their essence, with nature. And it was, I had been working with San Pedro, I had been working with ayahuasca, and it was actually an ayahuasca ceremony that I was sitting with. And I received this download, and that literally, I had that inner knowing that I had to study it formally, that I had to study astrology formally.
Nice. And for the listener that has never heard or doesn't understand what ayahuasca is, it's a brew, right?
Yes.
It's very popular in South America.
Yes.
And it kind of opens you up, right, to another world. Yes. So yes, it's incredible. When you say a download, for the listener, what does that actually mean? Is that like you thought of it? Did you see it? Did you hear something? How was that experience?
Mm-hmm. Well, that experience in particular was, it's an inner knowing. It can happen in many different ways. You can see something, you can hear someone telling you something, or you can just know it. And for me, it was actually all of the above.
It's one of those where it's like it's all at once and there's no denying, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I had a similar experience to that where it's just like,
yeah.
And I find it's almost like, and it's hard to explain to anyone that hasn't really sat with medicine or experienced these plant medicines, but it's almost like a sense of remembering versus somebody telling you or reading of a book. It's like you remember everything. Mm-hmm. When I had my experience, for me, it was through crying. I remember I cried for like 2 hours once the medicine hit me, and then it was just like I switched to what I like to call God consciousness. There's no other way of explaining it for me, and that's the only thing. But it almost felt like if I understood the whole world, like I knew it's supposed to be, and like I understood everything, like my past lives, my future lives. Like I understood the meaning and purpose. I don't know if anyone can relate to that experience without actually having plant medicine or sitting with it, but it's that profound.
Yeah,
right?
I think we can access it in many different ways. And I think that even the experience that you had with your mother when she was channeling, and then all of a sudden you were like, whoa, that it's similar to that. It's similar to that, just because you're literally just aligning with your higher self, and you're aligning with all of your bodies. So you're connecting with like not just your physical body, but your energetic body, your astral body, your emotional body, and everything is connected. And so everything just makes sense because you remember who you are, because you're so connected to your soul. So
yes, I think I agree with that, because it's just it's a lot more than that, and it's so hard to explain. You can't really explain it. But for me, besides knowing kind of like this absolute reality that all of a sudden I remembered, I also had visions where I could see literally my energetic body. Mm-hmm. And when people say it's a hallucination, it's like, no, it's not, because I am literally, it just makes sense what I'm seeing now. I'm finally understanding my body. But yes, it's super powerful, and I can see how it just creates incredible change for anyone that sits with it. So it's highly recommended for sure.
Highly recommended, yes. And what happens, I feel like also, it's just like once you become aware of something, you can't ignore it. Right? It's just like, so when I knew that for sure, like I knew that for sure. And even at that moment, I kept asking questions like, how am I going to do this? And I just kept hearing like, you're being taken care of. Like, and I feel like the more we align with our soul, the more we align with our purpose of why our souls came back and they're here, and we do that and we just go with that, we are taken care of like that, because that's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what I felt.
Yeah, I honestly, I think that's what this podcast is. Yeah. It's one of those things that you just know that you're meant to do. And then when you plan for it, just like everything falls into place. And just so you guys get an idea of why Valeria is here, is because this actually has been a year in the making. And I had you were definitely one of the people that I wanted to bring on board. But I had there was no specific order, but the dates just happened to be right around 2020. So I'm like, what perfect then by Lydia with all her incredible astrological knowledge and wow, and have her on board. And then I literally called Lydia and I told her to come, and she said yes. So thank you so much. This is incredible having you here. It's an absolute privilege. It's an honor. I feel so blessed that you're sharing this dream with me. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. And you were telling me the story of how it all happened, and we're just saying it just flowed, right? It all just kind of like, you've been planning it for a while, but when the timing is so right, it just kind of like flows. And you don't know much astrology, but today is a very auspicious day because the sun and Jupiter, which Jupiter is the Santa Claus of the sky, it's the guru, it's the one that brings all the beautiful lessons with all of these gifts. The sun, which is the consciousness, and this planet Jupiter are meeting today in Capricorn, which you're Capricorn, and it just really, and you didn't even know that. So when you're aligned with this, with your higher self, with your soul, with your energy, with your soul work, then things just flow so easily.
That's incredible. Yeah. To be honest, I chose this date because for me, 7 is such a lucky number. It's always been. In fact, my cell phone, I'm not going to share it, but the first 3 numbers is 777.
I noticed that.
So yeah, it's so crazy. And it's always been my lucky number. And then when it came on, okay, the year's ending, I have to start it. And then so I thought of it as starting it at the beginning of the year, 2020, the year of vision. But then I figured, you know what, why wait till 2020? Let's record it just before the end and then launch it, I guess, if we can at the beginning. And then I'm like, okay, the 27th, 7, there we go. And we'll launch it on the 7th. So wow. But it happens to be like an incredible astrological, event, right?
Yes.
So, and that's how it happens. It's so amazing, right?
Yeah.
I think when you line up to like all these, when you line up to working with your higher self and with consciousness, magic like this just happens and everything flows so easily. And I think that's really the key. And I think that's why I'm so motivated to release this content and all this knowledge and have guides like you share with the world, is because I see everyone around me struggling. And I used to struggle so hard with life. And I'm blessed to say that I was never depressed, even though that looks like half the world's depressed now, right? But I did go through anxiety. I did go through so much self-doubt at points in my life. And ever since I started walking this path, life has become so easier, so smooth, and I feel like everyone deserves to live a life like that. I hope that whoever's listening, can resonate with some of this and integrate it into their lives in whatever way works for them, and hopefully have great improvement.
Yeah, that's beautiful work you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. As are you.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Because, Lydia has an incredible Instagram page, which is AstroVal.
Yes.
Which,
at AstroVal _.
At AstroVal _, yes. Yeah. So please make sure you follow her because she posts incredible content about the stars and everything that's going on. And as someone that doesn't follow astrology much, every time I see her, I'm tuning in. I'm listening because it helps. And sometimes if it's one of those days where you have doubts, just like listening to what you're saying can just give you that extra guidance that you need to just make your day so much better, or choose that right. I don't think there's a right or wrong, but choose towards what's aligned for your best, intention or the result that you want in life, maybe.
I feel like it provides understanding. Like that, to me, is what astrology does. It just gives me understanding of the energies that are available in that moment. It's like the forecast. It's raining outside, so I came prepared with my umbrella because so it gives you that tool, that opportunity for you to, like 2020, I can see what's coming in a way. Well, and it's still like we live in a mystery. I don't really know what's going to happen. Don't ask me what's going to happen. But we can get prepared as far as like knowing that, it's a year of abundance. It's a year of prosperity. It's a year of, just abundance all around. But what does that really mean? And the work that we have to do then to align ourselves with that energy, because it's not just the stars that are going to provide.
Right.
You have to do the work. But if I know that that's available for me, then I know I'm going to get on that.
Of course.
I'm going to.
Yeah, I feel like it's not like a prophecy, but it's definitely a guide. It's definitely like it helps you kind of steer towards the right direction, kind of go with the flow versus, swimming against the current. So, yeah, I think it's super helpful, super helpful. Yeah. So, what's happening in 2020? What's going on in 2020? What do you think, what does the chart say?
Yeah, well, I'm going to do a little bit of a breakdown of the energy that we're going to have available. And I'm going to start with January up until June. Okay.
Awesome.
And then we'll do this again in the middle of the year, and then we'll continue and we'll pick up with the rest of the year.
It'll be incredible. Having you back will be amazing. Hopefully the podcast will grow in audience, and there will be definitely a lot more things to talk about in a few months. And I think the listeners would love to hear some more of 2020.
Yes. So let's start with the beginning of the year, January. Okay, we're going to start out with a full moon, January 10th. Okay, and you guys can get your pens and papers and write down these dates so you can, as we're getting closer to these events, you can prepare for this and okay, this is a full moon, January 10th. It's a full moon in Cancer. It's a lunar eclipse.
That is absolutely key, what you're saying about writing these things in advance, because for me, that I don't follow it as strict, I always find it's halfway throughout the day or at the end of the night, today was a great day to set an intention. Crap, I missed that energy. I should have done this early. So yes, if you're listening, have pen and paper and make sure you follow Lydia too on Instagram. AstroVal _ right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yes. So this is going to be a full moon, and we're still in eclipse season, and it's going to be like an emotional realization that your foundations are changing. And getting out of your comfort zone can make you feel a little bit insecure, but it's going to be crucial for your growth, okay? And now this can look like, the way that the astrology plays out is that it's so individual to you, because it depends if you have any planets in Capricorn or in Cancer. Wherever Cancer lands in your chart, which is an area of your life, that's where you're going to feel like there's going to be this emotional change, and your stability is going to get a little whoa, hold on a second. So that's why, learning your own astrology is so important. But overall, I'm going to give you an overall of what the energy will feel like.
Okay.
Now, January 12th, huge. When I say huge,
let me write that down. Okay, everyone, January 12th, please.
This is something, this is going to be Saturn and Pluto conjoining. This is they're going to meet at the same degree.
Okay.
And astrologers have been waiting for this. This is a cycle that happens every 38 years around, and it's something that we have been feeling throughout 2019 because these planets are very slow moving, and so 2019 they got a little close, but they didn't get completely together, and so this day they're gonna meet. Which, nothing huge that you haven't been already experiencing, because like I said, 2019 you were already experiencing it, and what this is going to be, and why this day is so more special than how it was 38 years ago, it was because we didn't have an eclipse, or there wasn't eclipses around the time that these two planets met, okay? So the eclipses make everything much more faded, and what the eclipses pretty much do is that they align you in the path of your soul, the reason why you incarnated. They kind of put you there. Wow. So the further you are away from that path, the more significant or impactful or challenging that may be. If you're already working on it, and if you're already going on it, you're gonna kind of get bumped to the next level, and it's gonna feel easier. So knowing these things is especially important right now. So what this means is that familiar parts of your life, things that you have been holding on that could be weighing you down, are going to come up to the surface, and it's going to give you that opportunity for you to release them. Again, this can be challenging for some that are really wanting to hold on to a part of themselves that they know that it's not beneficial for them, that it's weighing them down.
Is that probably the ego holding on and being I want to stay, I want to be in power? Is that kind of what it was?
You said the word. Pluto is power. Okay. So the control, the need to just keep things the way that they were, because it could be scary to let go of something to create a new structure. And literally, Pluto is power, empowering, and Saturn is just new structure. And sometimes we, have created these really deep structures of the way that our lives have been, that it's scary to let go. The way that we work, the way that we make money, the way that, it's
and
scary.
I think that happens to a lot of people. And and it feels like the older you are, the harder that it is, right?
100%.
Like if you go and change and trying to influence someone that's like 18 and 20, it may be easier, but your grandma may not work that same way, right? So I think it's very important at least to try and be open to these changes and maybe flowing. And then if it's around January 12th and you feel that something's going on, then why not try something new for a difference, right?
Exactly. And it could even, I like to explain this as simple as, our grandparents learning how to use the smartphones and WhatsApp.
Yes.
It's a new thing for them, and they're having to let go of the old, phones that, now it's like, no,
Right.
come on, we're going to have to improve. We're going to have to upgrade. So that's pretty much the
Like
feeling.
you have to. It's funny because my dad was one of those guys. My dad would never, ever turn on a computer ever in his whole life. And then with the smartphone revolution, he had to get on board because he was so disconnected from the world. And it's funny because when I saw him, it just makes sense. This guy said, I'll never touch a computer because he's so,
Stuck to his structure.
Stuck to his structure, and nothing can change him.
Yeah.
But and that happens.
Things
So
are changing.
It's very important to change, especially if it's for the better, right?
Yes. Now, this is also very beneficial for those that have been aware of their patterns, that know those things out there that have been holding them down, and that have been doing their inner work, okay? Because this gives them that push to get over that hump. It gives them that empowerment, that courage to go for it.
Beautiful. So it's a great day. It's an incredible day.
Just like anything, energy is like low and high, and it's how you're vibrating that you're going to, it just provides you, there's no right or wrong. It's just how you're vibrating it, and, it's going to provide you either a challenge, a lesson that's going to help you recognize your things, or it's going to give you that, let's go, that energy, that push. So,
and I feel like sometimes when we resist to it, is that life gets tough. Life gets hard. It's like life is showing us a way. It's like right there. The doors are open and we're like, no, we're going to stay inside. And then it gets really hot inside. And then we're like, well, life, why is it so hot? Right? And it's like, hello, doors open, walk outside, get some fresh air. And I think that's what happens with a lot of people. So very important.
Yeah, it happens to all of us. It happens. And that's why, the spiritual work, like you think that you just, you sit one time with the medicine or you go to yoga and that's it. No. It's the spiritual practice. It's the lifestyle. It's forever, because we're never done growing, we're never done evolving. And again, that's why I like to use this tool of astrology, because it helps me kind of know, okay, this is what's coming and this is the work that I need to do, because we're here to do the work.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think it's almost like going to the gym. You have to do it on a daily basis. And for me, medicine is probably like a boot camp, like, steroids. Like, whoa, you grow so much. But if you don't continue to go to the gym, it just like, you just go back to your normal self, right? 100%. So it's important to have that practice. And that's something that, for me, after I sat with plant medicine a couple years back, it was so intriguing. Like, how do I stay in this path? How do I continue to be around this energy? Does that mean that I have to sit with medicine every month? Does that mean that I have to do yoga? And I tried quite a few things, and I think I found a good balance of yes, doing yoga, of yes, sitting with medicine every now and then. I don't think you have to do it all the time. And that's a question that a lot of people, like of my friends, are like, oh, so what? So now you're going to do it every month? So now you're hooked? So now you're addicted? I'm like, no, it's so not that easy. In fact, it's so hard to sit with medicine because of the purging. And it's like, it's actually, you really have to be strong to sit with it versus just like having a drink and let's have fun. It's not fun at all. It's not fun.
It's spiritual work.
It's literally spiritual work. It's like going and doing like really hard CrossFit where you're like vomiting from all the CrossFit because it's and then that gives you the results. Yeah. And then it's like you're flowing and you're lighter and you understand so much more about the world, right?
100%. And also, you go and you sit and you get all these realizations, and then what do you do after? It's like you have to do the work, you have to keep it up. And so also, your diet, and your diet includes what you listen to, what you read, what you watch, everything that's on your surroundings, in order for you to maintain in that vibration or, continue in a high vibration, as opposed to going back to your patterns, which is so easy to.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things that happened for me. I tried being vegan. I failed. I tried being vegetarian. I did that for about a year. Then I stopped. And when I sat for the first time, it was like an immediate, like, you cannot eat any kind of animal ever again. It's just like an understanding, like how, like before, like I like to have like the blinders on, you know, like, oh yeah, it's chicken, like, well, at least I didn't kill it, it's already there, you know, or a cow, it's already there. But then it's like once you go through that, like you receive this understanding that's just way beyond yourself, right? This connectedness, like you feel for everyone, and it's like it's impossible for anyone, at least in my experience, it was impossible for me to eat, you know, another living being. Like, who am I to go ahead and order the execution of a living being for my pleasure? You know, that makes no sense, because we can totally survive without any kind of meat. And you know, these myths have been dispelled, and there's an excellent documentary on Netflix right now. It's called The Game Changers. I don't know if you've seen it, and it's absolutely phenomenal. So if anybody wants to learn about plant-based nutrition and how it relates to in sports, because a lot of people think that vegetarians are either fat because they're always eating pasta and rice and things like that, or they're very skinny because they don't receive enough protein. And in this documentary, I don't want to give it away, but literally they show the strongest man in the world, and he's vegan. So yeah, that pretty much fits everything, and it's beautiful. So if you haven't seen it, go on Netflix, and it's called The Game Changers. Incredible documentary.
Thank you for that. Yeah. So it's definitely a lot more than, you know. Yeah, like I said, it just becomes like a practice. You know, you just have to continue it.
For sure.
Now, which February 16th through March 9th is going to be a really great time for doing that type of practice. This is Mercury retrograding in Pisces and Aquarius. So this is an excellent time for you to go on some sort of group retreat, to sit in like a group meditation, or do any like a group work, anything like that. Learn about yoga, do spiritual work. This is also a period that can make you aware of your addictions, of anything or anyone for that matter that is draining your energy. Okay. And also it's a great time for you to reassess your friends, groups, community. You know, where do you want to be? Where's that? Because it's so important also for you to have that circle of friends that it's going to support you in that path that you want to be in. And
I agree with that. I feel like that's one of the hardest things about walking this path, is kind of releasing some of those friendships that are no longer serving your greatest good. And I mean, I still love all of my friends. I love all of them, absolutely love them. But we just probably don't connect in the same ways anymore. Like, it's no longer about just having, like, going party and getting wasted, you know. I mean, that was great when I was young, but definitely not working for anything for me, at least now. So I'll have to kind of step aside and honestly find new friends and find a new community that supports what I do. So I'm super thankful for everyone that's come into my life and been able to you know, just share those moments with me. And if they're listening, they know who they are. So thank you.
Yeah, a good support group is like what you need so that you can continue growing. So yeah, look out for those dates. Go on retreats. Go on, you know, that's a great time for that.
And that's February 16th.
That's February 16th through March 9th.
Through March 9th.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So it's like a 3-week retreat would be incredible around that time.
Now, also, just something for you to also put into consideration is that Mercury is the mind, and when it retrogrades, it's almost like it slows down. And this is when they tell
I'm gonna stop you really quick.
Yeah.
Please explain to me and everyone, what is Mercury retrograde? Why does it hate it so much? Why does everybody fear it so much? What is it?
You know, I don't understand why people fear it so much. I love Mercury retrograde.
Okay, that's a first for me anyway. But
yeah, people blame everything on Mercury retrograde, but yes, so Mercury is the messenger of the gods. It is the planet of communication. It's literally like the planet where you're processing your thoughts, right? It's like that internal processor that we have as this computer that we have as a vessel. And when it retrogrades, it just slows down. So I feel it as a blessing because it gives us time to reintegrate, like edit, you know, kind of like, you know how sometimes you have to like turn off your phone in order for it to you know, like when you do an upgrade type of thing.
Right.
Same thing. Like your body literally needs to do these upgrades because you're constantly receiving information and processing things, and you have to let it.
It's like defragging the hard drive, maybe, where it's like grabbing all the old stuff and putting it together into new stuff and organizing it, kind of.
You got it. Now, what happens is that yes, the communication in the mind and everything is not working as usual per speed, and so communication, like messages, tend to get lost. Cell phones and technology tend to kind of go out of whack. So it's just prepare for it. I
remember this year. Sorry, we were like in a sound healing event around the time. And they were playing an instrument, and the string just snapped out of nowhere, and he just goes like Mercury retrograde, and it's like everyone's like and everyone's laughing, but it feels like there's such a stigma around that term. So are we gonna have this again in 2020? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it happens. Mercury is the planet closest to the sun, and so it goes fast. It kind of moves along with the sun, so it retrogrades like 3 times a year, sometimes 4.
God.
but not to worry, not to panic. Just make sure that you stay super grounded, especially because it's going to be retrograding in Pisces mainly, just a little bit in Aquarius. So this is going to tend us to be in like this dreamy, la la land, like daydreaming type of thing. So make sure that you're leaving to your appointments 10 minutes before your appointment. Make sure that you're writing things down so you don't forget that you have an appointment. All those things that you're just
and be prepared for anything that can go wrong.
Yeah,
bring
an extra cable.
Yes, that makes sense.
Back up your computers. Things like that. Just prepare for it. But I think that it's actually a really great thing, important thing for us to have the mind take a break. Now, after that, another beautiful aspect that's going to be a staple aspect of 2020 is going to be Jupiter. We call Jupiter the Santa Claus of the sky. It's a guru. It's a teacher that brings us so many lessons through. It's like the philosopher, just very joyful teacher. And it's going to be sextiling. It's a beautiful aspect to Neptune. Neptune is the dreamer. Neptune is the spiritual worker. And when these two planets are in a harmonious aspect, beautiful things can happen. And it's going to happen 3 times this year, coming year. And that's beautiful because the last time that Neptune and Jupiter connected in this way, they only did it once in a year. So to have it 3 times in a year, it's really telling us that we're really preparing for creative ventures. Like these two planets, when they meet, it's a sexy aspect for artists, spiritual workers, and this combo of energies result in fulfilling professional aspirations and literally like dreams coming true.
Love it.
Okay, but again, we have to do the work. It's not just like, like you're doing this type of thing, and like you'll notice that things are just going to be flowing because you're doing what you're working with these things. So it's especially going to be beneficial for those creative minds.
Remind us again, what's the date for that?
So it's actually going to happen 3 times during the year. Beautiful. The first one is going to be February 20th. The next one is going to be July 27th, and the last one October 12th.
Love it.
We'll talk again. When we meet again.
Yes.
Now, the other huge thing that's going to happen is that Saturn is going to enter Aquarius. Now, Saturn is also like this teacher, but Saturn is a much more stern teacher. Saturn brings the hard lessons as opposed to Jupiter bringing like the really fun and like easy lessons and just like making things fun for us to learn. This one's like a little bit more like, let's work on this. Yeah. And this is, we're only going to get a preview of
Saturn's like the ayahuasca of the planets.
Right. My teacher calls him the high school principal.
The high school, okay.
Like he's the one that you're going to kind of, calls you into to his office and says, show me what you've been working on.
Got it.
And then if you haven't been doing your work, he's going to, expel you or tell you, give you more work or whatever it is. So this is going to be a trailer. Saturn is going to enter Aquarius from March until July. And so this is like a preview of it until it goes full time, because it's going to go full time into Aquarius in December 17th. And it's going to stay there for 2.5 years. So watch out. Watch to see how this energy is going to play out. And this energy is the realization that we're working for humanity. Okay. Mm-hmm. Saturn in Capricorn, which is what we've been having now, and it's been like that for 2.5 years, has been very much about us, about what is it that I'm here to do? What are my work ethics? What is my purpose? All of these things of like, what are my goals? Where am I heading towards? Now, when it moves into Aquarius, it's like, yeah, I realize that I have to do all of this, but it's not just for me. This is for humanity.
You realize this is just more than you, right?
Exactly.
It's beautiful.
And it just turns into it's like, what am I leaving behind? It's not for the future, for the children, for the earth.
And you're saying that this period is going to be 2.5 years starting in December.
Yes.
So is it safe to say that 21, 22 are going to be like incredible years of everyone kind of pitching in for humanity, something like that, maybe?
Yes. And, at first it really brings up those lessons for us. It's like, where like, what are you doing? What are you putting to the table that's going to make the world a better place?
And it feels like if you're working towards that, it's just going to be easier, right?
Yeah.
Like, 'cause you're not going to get...
So here we have all the millennials. Like, this is a very futuristic, and the millennials are so like already like in technology and like working with technology and working through IG and like Instagram and all of this stuff. That's that type of energy where they're really going to begin to show us how to do it, or the millennials are going to show us how to do this type of work.
And I feel like millennials get picked on so much, right? I don't know why. They always say that they're entitled, and so millennials, this is the time for you to step up, right? And do the hard work, right?
Exactly. You got it. That's exactly it. Now, I also feel like because there's so much technology with Aquarius and just like so many futuristic things, like Aquarius literally rules the internet. Saturn being there is going to begin to either regulate it or some sort of like, there's like technology is going to have to pay its dues in a way where we're really going to have to get serious about how we do technology.
What do you mean by that?
I don't know. I don't know because I don't know how that's going to come into fruition, right? Like that's the mystery that we live in. Like astrologers can't predict exactly how that's going to look like, but what I could say that what I mean by that is that Saturn being the high school principal is going to bring in the technology into its office, and it's going to say, what are you doing for us? How are you using this technology for the betterment of all?
And I think, I think that's already happening. Like it's a kind of like a checkpoint. Like I think social media, personally, I think it's great, it's beautiful, but it also has a lot of negative, or maybe like things that are not so good for us, which is and I think Instagram, like one of those things that they're doing now where they're removing the likes, is they realized that they were causing harm and to maybe the younger kids that they were afraid of posting something because they weren't getting enough likes, they weren't popular enough. So maybe I think that's and it's going to happen naturally anyway. I feel like when technology, especially all these new technologies, reach a point of maturity, they're going to go ahead and kind of have to check themselves and see how we could become better. I know the Twitter CEO is actually doing a lot on this, especially with the whole political scandals across who paid for who for the campaigns and all that. So I know that's something that they're working on hard right now, and fake news and...
Right. So those are exactly the things that we're going to see that, they're going to have to pay its dues. Like we're going to have to see how we're going to regulate those things.
Maybe we can get, finally the Facebook and Instagram breakup happens because they're being too powerful. Who knows? Interesting. We shall see. When is this happening again?
So we'll get the preview March 21st through July. And like July 1st or something. And then it'll actually go full force in December 17th. And then we'll talk about, because we're also going to have a great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter in December in Aquarius, which is, it's really great. So we'll talk about that when we see each other again. Sure. So the next one is going to be, this is the staple of 2020, which is Jupiter conjunct Pluto. So Jupiter again being this planet that expands everything, and Pluto being the planet of transformation, of power, of shadow work, all of these things. And they're going to have 3 contacts where they're going to be meeting in the exact same degree in Capricorn. And this is going to happen April 4th, June 30th, and November 12th, okay? So the first one, and you may be wondering why does this happen? Because planets retrograde. So they meet each other once, and then they go back, and they meet each other again, and then they move forward again, and then... So
it's like a swing
it's a
where
dance.
they keep in a dance. That's probably a better term.
So this is the expansion of your deepest desires. Okay, here you're going to get to see what it is that you're really like desiring, and there may be some shadow work that you're going to do around that. And this is because you're going to have to recognize that there's something that you really, really want. And so you're also going to pay attention to your ambition, because this is also going to drive you, like, get you on fire. wanting to go after that, which is a really great thing, you know, for people that have been sleeping through the movie and not really like doing the work.
Of course.
But also pay attention, because they can bring a lot of like, you're going to do it at no matter what cost.
Right. So keep ambition in check.
Right.
And I think ambition is a great thing, because it leads us to do great things, right? Yeah. Like maybe this podcast comes a little bit of an ambition to share with the world, but also has to be in check, because then we get too power oriented and then we lose probably the raw goodness out of it. Yeah. And we focus a lot of it on power, and kind of everything loses its magic, because then it's just the ego that wants, want to be famous. I want to be rich or whatever. And being rich is great, and maybe famous too, but under the right, I guess, if you know how to channel those energies properly.
That's exactly it. So just, it's like the end justify the means type of thing. Like, just make sure that you're like, pay attention to, who are you going over to get to where you're going, like all those things. That's beautiful. Like, I feel like if you're gonna, and that's great, like not to step on anyone or not to hurt anyone in the process of your growth, right? Totally. Just do it in a very holistic way, in a way where you can actually help others in the process rather than pushing others down to go up, right? Maybe totally. Does that make sense? Yeah. So there again, we see like the lower manifestation of that energy and the highest manifestation of that energy. It's that great joy that you get after you integrate your shadow, because you may notice that. Like, oh, like there's some jealousy, or oh, there's like, you really want to. And then when you recognize that part of like, yeah, like there's this emotion, like this shadow that comes up because you really want to get to that. There's nothing wrong with that. And just integrating that as part of yourself, and like realizing like, okay, like we're all getting there, or, like whatever it may be, whatever emotion comes up. But then if you do the work, right, then you get that great joy of integrating with your shadow, and, there goes the ambition again. And there goes, like the good ambition, the growth, I guess.
It's almost like meeting the drive with the purpose, maybe. It's just like, wow, it's different, because it's like maybe your life's purpose, and then that ambition is helping you get to it, right?
Yeah.
So maybe merging those energies.
Yeah, exactly. Passion is great.
Passion.
Now, the last one that I'm going to talk about is May 13th through June 25th. Okay, This is Venus retrograding. Okay, here we talk about another retrograde planet. This is Venus. Venus is the planet that rules relationships and money in the like 3-dimensional world. In the 5-dimensional world, when we're talking about like energies, or Venus is that energy of self-love, of value, of like what you give value to, and all of those things. So when this planet moves in retrograde, which planets don't actually move backwards, but it's just the way that we see them from our perspective in the Earth.
Like it's moving further away from us, but it's really not going backwards. It's just spinning in a circle.
Thank you. Okay. Right. Yeah. So we say retrograde, but they're not really like retrograding. Right. It's just our perspective for like how we see it here on the Earth. From
our ego point of view, we are the center of it all, right?
Exactly.
It's truly not.
So during this period, we will learn the value of honesty in our connections, because it's retrograding in Gemini. And so communication is going to be huge in our relationships, and the way that we also, like how we contract, how we, like our contracts with others, and like how we deal with money. All of that is going to bring in like a little bit of like a reset, like how am I dealing with this, what's my relationship with money, what's my relationship with, how do I communicate with my relationships, things like that. We may edit our contracts. Also, Venus retrograding is classic for old lovers surfacing for understanding and closure. You don't necessarily have to talk to them, but do know that things may come up, or just like lessons that you might have encountered with them that taught you self-love or taught you self-respect. And so those lessons may resurface, and you may remember them for that reason, like, oh yeah, that person taught me how to love myself, like I had, like thanks to that I loved myself. And so those lessons may appear again,
like it'll come back,
kind of for you to kind of like get another understanding of it, because again, every time it's like, you think and then something comes around, and it's like, oh, now I understand it better.
Yeah, I feel like that's anything with life. I think with time, just the lesson is just so much easier to grasp. Like at the beginning, it can happen, and you're like, "What was this about?" And then 6 months, you're like, "Oh, now that all makes sense."
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and this date is when again?
This is May 13th through June 25th.
Through June 25th. Okay,
Yeah.
like driving into summer.
Yeah. And this can be challenging.
Summer of love.
Yeah. And this can really bring like some challenges in relationships, because the lesson here is for us to improve the way that we communicate. So if you don't have great communication skills in your relationships, you're gonna have to incorporate those during that time. And also, I feel like the understanding that we all speak different languages in love, right?
Yes.
Like for some love, I can show you that I love you because I'm gonna go home and prepare you a nice meal, and that's my way of saying I love you, that I care for you. And for you, maybe, I'm gonna go buy you a gift, and that may be my way of showing you that I love you. And
Right.
so understanding that we all have different ways of expressing love is going to be one of these things that this Venus retrograde in Gemini is going to bring up for us.
Well, and that is so key. Like, honestly, the way we all express love is so different. And men and women are already so different. So when you combine those two, it's like, wow, how do we get along, right? But we can't live without each other. It's beautiful. Okay, so that's happening around that time.
And, here we go again. Like, the way that astrology provides us that understanding of, like, oh, well, my Venus is here and my Mercury is here. So this is how I understand things. Like, my Mercury in, like, water, I'm going to be more quiet. I'm going to be more internal, and I may not talk so much. And my Venus is in Capricorn. So I may express love by making you, or I may want you to express your love by giving me something of value. And first, so it just depends. And like knowing that and like conveying that message and like having that understanding with your partners, and not only just like your love partners, but just like anyone that you are in a relationship with, like your, work associate or whatever it is. That's important.
Right. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. And I feel like another way that I think astrology helps us too is just the fact that understanding that these things are kind of floating around that time, these energies. Maybe you get home and your boyfriend, your spouse, whatever, is acting a little different, and then maybe just by understanding this, you can actually like, oh, let me not jump on it. Let me just, maybe this is what's going on. Maybe we have that Jupiter there or whatever. I'm so sorry. And create better understanding, right? Maybe we can use that.
Gosh, 100%. I feel like my partnership that I am right now, like if it wasn't for our understanding of both of ourselves, like through astrology, knowing that he operates here and I operate here, and that we do have those points that we trigger each other, that he wants this and I want that, and sometimes it's like, how do we come to a midpoint? And
that can be so hard.
Yeah.
And I think everyone happens through that, like goes through that.
Yeah.
And I think it's important, obviously, to understand each other's points of view and the energies that influence us all.
Yeah.
Like for me, for example, I think I'm a werewolf, because when the moon comes out, I'm like, oh my God. And it happens 2 days before a full moon. And I really don't look out for the full moon. It's just like 2 days before, I feel like, oh, like I'm pissed off at the world. And then I just look at the calendar and I'll see a post. So it's full moon party in 2 days. Oh, there we go. That explains it.
So I love that you brought that up, because what I was explaining at the beginning of when I started talking about astrology, how these two planets have been in a dance for all of 2019, because we feel the energy more when they're closer together than when they're exact. Like when the full moon is exact, it's like, it's almost like you're inflating, like you're finally releasing. It's like, but the buildup of it, you literally feel like the emotions are building up, and you feel like you have to, like, there's just like, what's going on? I need to release this, because we're water. Our bodies are made out of water, and when the moon is full, it's like you just feel inflammation, like your body my rings literally get like, I have to like switch them from one finger to the other, because my like the water, my inflammation, just kind of like the whole body just gets inflamed.
Bloat a little, right? That happens to me a lot too. And I think that's also that's great knowledge to have. I mean, My grandma, for example, she likes going to the doctor for anything. Maybe she knows that it's probably the full moon that's causing her to feel, maybe, she'll save a trip to the doctor, right?
Yeah. And also, like paying attention to your diet around that time, making sure that you're not eating processed foods or anything that's going to cause more
right?
inflammation.
I feel like salts cause
Exactly. All of those things are just, just awareness.
Awareness and understanding of all these energies around us. And unfortunately, we're not taught,
Well, that's my dream. That's my dream. My dream is that we are going to be able to teach this in schools. Like how beautiful would it be for me for you to have been able to grow up in an environment where if you're a water child, if like you're mostly water in your chart and you tend to be more inner, like more introspective, and then you're not going to be the fire guy that's out there socializing and dancing and getting on top of tables, or like the air guy that's talking and interrupting class. Like we all have different ways, and like if the teacher knows that you're a water guy, she's not gonna make you like get you out of your comfort zone, but she's gonna understand that. And everybody, like, there will be less bullying too,
right?
If we can teach this, like, hey, we're all different, we're all made up a little different, and give these tools as basic, as elemental as the elements. It's just like really basic stuff.
Yeah, I think like when it comes to schools, I personally feel like 80 to 90% of what I've learned in my whole school life works for nothing, to be honest. I wish it would have taught me not only about energetic work, but like paying credit cards and stocks and things that actually can work for you versus, so many things that are really irrelevant. Definitely energetic work. God, how great would it be if they taught about plant medicine in school to kids and prepare them and how to teach them how to meditate when you're young, right? And
it's happening.
Things that actually matter.
It's happening, and I think that that's the work that we're doing now, and that we're going to be shifting that. Also, what we're seeing so much with this heavy Capricorn Cancer like energy and the eclipses that we're having right now, it's a process that it takes a long time for you to see the manifestations, and with the conjunction of Pluto and Saturn, it's literally like a break to the system, a break to the way that we do all of these things, to the government, to the establishment.
Right.
And so we have to pretty much, it's like breaking down the wall, like a wrecking ball, like.
And you know what? I think
we are.
Yeah, coming back to literally what I said about millennials getting picked on so much, I think that's why, because they're rebels. They're not. I think for the majority of them are not following what they were told to follow, and they're questioning things, and they're asking, why do we do this, and what is this? And then I think the older folks, you're like, oh, these little kids, stick to what we're teaching you. And I think this is great. I think this is causing mass evolution in so many things, in technologies and spirit work and so many fields.
So that's why it's important for us to bring in the awareness of spirituality, because if we just become rebels without a cause, then it just becomes mayhem, right? So that's also part of the reason why the older generations like, well, like all of these, like you're just rebelling, but why? What's the reason? And we have to have like a deeper cause. And the reason, the way for me, the way that I see it is connecting back to our roots, connecting back to nature, because the more that we grow in technology, the more we grow, we just keep going up and up and up and up and up. But the more higher up we go, the more grounding we need to do, the more we have to go back to that ancient roots and the way of connecting to nature and taking care of nature, because, we could go build Mars or go live, but no, like we have everything here that we need. We just have to take care of it and do things a little different.
Yeah, that is like very well put, because I feel as much as technology helps us, we're so behind on our inner work, on ourselves, right? Like we're reaching other planets, but we have starving kids here, right?
We're not going in here.
And
we can go so deep. We can go up so high if we go in here.
Right, yeah. I think we're taught that everything is out there, and we're always looking for what's next, what's outside of us, what's beyond the stars, which is great because it helps us for a lot of things like astrology, but like looking at the planets. But we forget, to look inside, and when we look inside, we see everything more than we can possibly imagine. Everything's inside of us, right?
Yeah, it's the connection between mind and nature.
Nature. And going back to nature, how powerful, how important is that? I feel like we're going through, I mean, the way I see it, and I see kind of the world is evolving, is like, I feel like we're growing, and technology is taking us to like the top of the high rise, right? And now we're at the top of the high rise, and I'm like, it's kind of lonely over here. We feel disconnected with Earth, right? So now everyone's like kind of getting off the high rises and want to ground themselves to nature and learn from our ancestors and like what were they doing in the past that was working for them, and why are we so unhappy now, right?
Well, think about all of the radiation that technology is emitting, you know, like how that can be affecting our health and how that is affecting the way that we, you know, we're depressed, like we're living in a. And I think that everybody, you know, you go through phases. I mean, it's human nature to go through these ups and downs, and as simple as having a bad day or getting stuck in traffic, whatever it is, that just like, you know, someone passes away and you really feel something, you feel emotional, which is part of humanity, part of the human nature.
And you have to think, I mean, we live in a world where we have cell phones, microwaves, radio, Bluetooth, all these energies interfering with our energetic body, because we are an energetic body. We drive energy through ourselves. So I feel like we're constantly bombarded with all these external energies that didn't exist before, and our bodies are just not used to them. And maybe that's why we feel weird sometimes, and things are going on. And now that you brought the topic of technology, I mean, I honestly don't know much about this, but I feel it's so crucial because we're at that point where 5G is lighting up all over the world, especially in the US. I just heard Verizon's lighting up 20 cities in the next few months. And there's so much controversy over 5G being extremely harmful to humans, and some countries in Europe already banning it. So can we somehow make sense out of all of this, right?
I think the answer is nature. I think that nature literally like helps us release, or, you know, kind of like
maybe shielding ourselves from those
you know,
energies?
we have these powerful like these crystals, shunganite. I don't know if I'm saying it right. I always say it wrong. But, you know, and even for me, I would say just going to the beach, into the water, spending time in nature, it resets you. So going back to that, as simple as just spending time in nature is going to help you.
There's no denying that. I mean, like, I don't think anyone that's stressed or tired and this just goes to the mountains or even to the beach and connects with nature and go in the water and just come out and you feel like new, right? I think it just happens to everyone.
Every time. I like, it's such a powerful cleanse. I call, you know, Gemania, Mother Ocean, just this powerful limpia that I get every time I get into the waters, because it's, you know, all the salt water is cleansing those.
I remember, like, when I was in high school, I had the fortune of living literally on Collins Avenue, like left of Collins, obviously, because, you know, but I was just crossing the street on the beach. And I remember being 15, 16 with my high school problems and stresses, you know, that at the time feel like it's the end of the world and like, oh my God, life is so hard. And you're just worried about a class. And I remember just like, and I've always been a night owl, but crossing like a 1, 2 in the morning into the beach and not even getting in the water, just like laying down. I used to live in Sunny Isles, like in one of those hotels, like laying down on the beach, on the sand, and 15, 20 minutes, it's like therapy. Like I would come back feeling fresh, like renewed. And I didn't know anything about spirituality back then. I wasn't doing any prayers, any grounding, any meditation. I would just sit there and feel the breeze and the ocean, right? And it was just so cleansing. And I feel like a lot of people, especially if you live in the cities, like you don't get a lot of that, right? You don't have those options. But we're blessed to live in Miami, aren't we?
You know, I recently moved to Miami like 2 years ago, and I moved to Miami because the community, because I knew that I had found my tribe here, and which was my medicine community, and because I wanted to live in front of the beach and I wanted to be close to the ocean, because it's, you know, I the type of work that I do, and you know, I've been an empath, you know, all my life. And it's funny, I was just in Orlando, which is where I grew up most of my life, and it's very green there. There's a lot of greenery, a lot of lakes there, and my fiance was like, wow, it must have been really nice for you to grown up with all this green here. And I said, it really was helpful because I felt like I'm always absorbing energy and I'm always like taking in, just what's my surroundings, and being able to just see green, even if I like didn't like necessarily get in the ocean or like get in the water, but it was just like putting my feet on the ground or just seeing it, all of the green, helped me kind of feel comfortable with whatever was going on in my life or whatever was going on around me. So I think that even if you just get plants in your house, if you live in a city that you're not close to nature, but create that connection with earth in one way or another. Get a pet. Pets are also so cleansing. They're so like, they're unconditional love, like a dog. Oh my god, I love my dog. It's like you get home or you've been spent the whole day with going through things, and you have this animal that's just like wanting to love you. Love is the highest vibration available that can transmute anything. So whatever you're feeling, this little thing just comes up to your lap, or just you pet him, and then everything else just like fades. Everything, all your worries, all your anxiety, everything just
Yeah, that's what's so amazing about dogs. Dogs are like unlimited love, right? Like it's an unlimited source, and no matter what you do to them, like they're always there loving you. That's why they're so special. I think that's probably why they were put in this earth, right? To remind us to love. I've always thought of that. Like, what are the odds? Like, dogs are always like the man's best friend, right? And we have them in our houses. And what can a dog teach us? You can hit a dog, and the dog doesn't care. No. They'll come and wag their tail and lick your face. They're just pure love, right? So we can kind of see past it and like see them on an energetic work, and maybe like the purpose of a dog. Wow, teaching us love.
Unconditional love. Isn't
that kind of what an angel would be? Someone to teach us love?
They are. I call my furry baby an angel. He saved my life. He really did.
Yeah, dogs are incredible. If you guys don't have pets, please do. Why is it that everybody, well, not everyone, but a lot of people in the community have cats instead of dogs? Have you wondered that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a very witchy staple.
Right? Maybe it's because they're silent, and to meditate, maybe a barking dog doesn't help much. Could that be it?
Yeah. I don't know. I actually want a cat.
A cat?
I keep telling my fiance, and he's like, no more. We already have 2 dogs.
Yeah, cats are awesome. I wanted one of those like furless cats, you know what I mean? Because it helps with the allergies and things. When they're kind of ugly, but lovable.
Yeah.
Right? As are animals. And I had 3 questions. I'm going to kind of pull my book here to remind you. I had 3 questions for you.
3 questions.
Before we go, that I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
So the first one would be, what has been your greatest lesson so far?
Self-love. Self-love. For me, everything comes back to loving myself. Like I feel like every time I come back to that, like just unconditionally like appreciate and accept who I am through just loving myself, and that's it. It just brings me back every time.
Yeah, I think that's powerful because a lot of people kind of look for love outside and they forget about loving themselves, right?
Yes.
And I feel like women have it harder than guys so much because they're looked at by the way they look, by the way they dress, by what they, everything. It's just like the makeup. Yeah. It's like, oh my God, it's like being a woman must be so hard. Cannot imagine.
Yeah.
You girls are put through so much, so I apologize on behalf of all the men in the world that you guys have to go through all of that. It's not fair.
No need. I think that it's part of the work that, the feminine energy is doing, and that we have been stepping back into our power of like learning the beauty of being a feminine, being in this body, and a feminine body. And also, the integration of both of the feminine and the masculine. Because for so long we just identify, or I speak for myself, I identified with just being a woman, that I had to look a certain way and do a certain way and da-da-da. And integrating that masculine energy within me as well, of like, going and doing what I need to do, and not expecting others to provide it for me, but also providing that for myself has been huge. And in relationships as well, I feel like for most women, like we're looking for love, we're looking for, we tend to just give
Prince
out
Charming.
so much, and we love, and we just want to, and we forget that we need to give that love to ourselves first, and that we need to love ourselves unconditionally first, and then after that, everything else just like we begin to attract like that feminine energy, which is that lunar energy, that moon energy, and that Venus energy. Is the lunar energy is nurturing. So nurturing myself first, like giving myself everything that I need in order for me to feel comfortable, is very much that lunar energy. And then Venus, it's like when you're in that love energy, you radiate beauty and you radiate love, and then you attract. You don't have to go get anything. You don't have to go put out there anything. It's just kind of, it just comes to you.
That's amazing. It's beautiful. I think you're absolutely right. When it comes to that, self-love is very important.
Yeah.
And accepting yourself as you are, right?
Yes.
It's so key. Okay, so this is another question that if you had one advice for a younger you, what would it be?
Take time for yourself. Like, create a ritual space for you to be in your own energy, for you to just be, like, no need to. I feel like I really lacked that when I was young, and I wish I would have known that I needed to meditate. And meditate doesn't necessarily have to be like, like just sitting there cross-legged, eyes closed, but just the time, either in the hot tub or just sitting there by myself, just having a moment of introspection to kind of like gather myself, to kind of know, okay, this happened today, and this is what, how I'm going to deal with it, and this is how I'm going to move forward with this tomorrow, or, kind of like having those periods of solitude for integration is so
slowing
key.
Down, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we live in a super fast-paced life, and for me personally, but it actually happened to me last night, and that's why it's so fresh in my mind. And I love that you said it, because I want to talk about it when I'm going to start something like a project like this, and something important is happening. I get so anxious, and I start speeding up. And just last night, as we were doing like the test for the podcast, I left my man bag, wallet, or call it what you want. I left it in the storage because I was so in my head, and I think it's part of like the excitement that speeds you up. But we have to remember that even on that excitement, we have to just keep our steady pace or slow pace. And it reminds me a lot of Eckhart Tolle and his story about. Oprah says it a lot, that when she called him to tell him that he was going to be in the book club, which he was like instant millions of books sold. He was like, okay, thank you. And then, she always says it in her ego. She's like, oh my God, how was he not excited? And it's crazy. And that's because this guy is a master of practicing detachment, right?
Be here now.
Be here now. And he speaks slowly.
It's so true. It's so true. So
like
yeah,
the message is in between the words. I love him.
The pause between action makes the difference, so that you don't react. So having that pause every day.
That was such a fresh reminder for me. And just leaving my wallet, I was like, oh my God, because speeding up even for excitement, which is great. I feel like you should be excited, but even speeding up actually caused a delay because I had to go back to look for the wallet, and a lot of stress too, because I was like, oh my God, my money, everything, my keys.
My brother, I don't know how to translate that, just help me out, but my brother, I remember him always saying, de la prisa solo queda el cansancio.
That's right. So from being rushed, you just end up tired.
Yeah.
Kind of like that, right?
Yeah. It doesn't have a good translation in English, but for those of you Spanish speakers, it always sticks.
That is the underlying message. So slow down, keep that steady pace, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Unless you're in the gym, then go hard.
There's a time and a space for everything.
Exactly.
But I think it is very important for you to, like, in my perfect world, like every day I would wake up and just pause and start my day like with a very just kind of knowing what I'm gonna get to, just preparing for the day.
Right. I think it's important to have maybe a morning ritual.
Yeah.
Where someone actually mentioned that her, and this is recently, her morning ritual was playing the sound bowls, the healing bowls, sound bowls, and I'm like, that is so great. I've personally been looking for a morning ritual for a while, because I'm the kind of guy that wakes up and it's like, I gotta work, I got office, emails, phone calls, boom, boom, boom. Like, I have no time, and I'm thinking, like, if I woke up maybe 15 minutes earlier, and it's something that we can all do, and just take the time to kind of tune in early and kind of slow down and just get in the energy, I feel like my day will be so much better.
Yeah.
So I ordered some sound bowls for my birthday. Hopefully I get them on Monday, and that's going to be my morning ritual from now on for next year. And I think everybody should have one of those, right?
Yes.
It's so key. And maybe something at night too.
Yeah. So that's definitely also something, like, just morning and night, man, like, just to get ready for the day and then to decompress after the day.
Yeah, I feel like in my personal experience, like, at night, I'm one of those guys that is always thinking. And that's something that yoga and meditation has helped me a lot with. Like, in fact, I did a yoga class this morning, and I hadn't gone to yoga in like 3 months. But I was thinking, like, just comparing myself now doing yoga class to when I started, where I just couldn't get, I couldn't stop the monkey mind, and it was so hard. And now it's so effortless and beautiful, and like, I forgot about it, and it's so amazing. And it's important, I guess, to celebrate our victories, right?
Yeah.
Because just,
I love that.
Yeah, that was so beautiful. Like, I left that class feeling so blissed out, and that's special. And there was nothing other than just, it was really a result of me calming my mind, my thoughts.
And that happens with practice.
That happens with practice. That's exactly what we're talking about at the beginning.
Yeah,
practice.
It's a spiritual
Every
practice.
day. It's a spiritual practice. And it just makes life so much more beautiful, so much more effortless. Yeah. I feel like if everybody would do it, it would just change the world, right?
Yeah, and I think that that's what we're getting towards. It's just like changing the way that we live. It's like life is a spiritual practice. Life is a spiritual journey, and it's trial and error. We were talking about these ways, but also I encourage everyone to follow your curiosity, to follow your passion. And for me, it's these ways. For you, it's that way, and for someone else, maybe something else. But go do it. It's the time for you to just explore and see what works for you and what doesn't.
Yes, that's absolutely key, because what works for you definitely does not work for me or for anyone. I think we're also, and that's what's special, we're also unique. And it's part of life, I guess. That's part of the fun of life, finding what works for us. And this has been a year where I've done a lot of that, and I'm so thankful, so grateful that I found certain things that have been really amazing to me. And this was really, honestly, this was one of the reasons why I wanted to start this podcast, because I felt I've met so many incredible people along the way that they know so much, and sometimes they don't have a platform unless you really go to them. But not everybody can go to the jungle. Not everybody can go to Bali or India, So having a platform like this where everyone can just tune in on rush hour, on traffic, whenever they want, they can tune in and just learn something new from someone else, a new technique. And maybe, I don't know, astrology doesn't resonate much with you, but something else does, and you find your way and you improve your life just a little bit, then I think our mission has been accomplished, right?
Totally.
Yes, so thank you for everyone who listened in. And actually, before you go, I have one last question, which is, what has been your greatest blessing?
My family.
Oh.
My family.
How important is family?
Family's everything. My family gives me, it's like that motor that just makes me like want to keep going and better myself, because I see their love, because I see the beauty, and I see the not so beautiful things, and I say, I really want to like give back to them and also improve. Like, I want to leave a good legacy for my nieces and for those that are to come, and like create that path to make it easier for them, or just to kind of, it's my family. My family is my motor.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. In so many ways. Like, I also have a niece and a nephew now that I would love for them to have maybe an easier or a healthier growth and start than I had, or than we had, because someone's sharing this information with them, and then maybe being of guides for them, and not just obviously the babies, but maybe the grandparents or the moms or the dads that they, they're doing their best, but they didn't know some of this stuff,
Yeah.
Like
and also, we then become family with our friends, and we create our,
for sure.
and also just kind of like that family that we chose, like just that, man. Like, I feel like it all just comes down to that. To that
100%.
love for those, like your loved ones, like the people that you just love the most. It's like, look, like I did this, and I get to share it with you. You know, it's like,
how beautiful is that? It's like everything is so much more meaningful and special when it's shared, right? Like, it's like you can watch a movie on Netflix, like, oh, it was good, but when you share it with someone special, it's like so much better, right?
100%.
And when you share like life work and hard work with family and friends, it just takes a lot more meaning, right?
It's so fulfilling. It's just like, yes, this is what I'm here for. To like give, just to kind of give them that.
Yes. Well, to the family that we were born with, and to the friends that have become our family, and to the friends that will become our family, this is for you.
And I'm also like thinking about creating my own family. Like getting married and all of this, and that's also kind of providing like a whole nother like whoosh, like, wow, it's just, life just becomes so much more meaningful when you're like thinking, it's like, wow. But yeah.
And don't you just feel like so much more responsibility thinking of having to have, a baby and raising him the proper way or the healthiest way, It just feels like we need to do the work so much more. It puts pressure on us. And that's beautiful because in one way they're helping us already.
Yeah. I say I love you already without even knowing that you're like knowing you, for those that are going to come through me or the one that's going to come through me, and just like, I love you so much already that everything that I'm doing is to prepare for you.
Wow. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for being here. I feel like we can talk forever and ever, but this is a beautiful, incredible first chapter, and we're calling this a chapter rather than an episode because I want this podcast to feel in the long run like kind of like a book where it doesn't matter what chapter you kind of open, there's so much knowledge and something for you to learn, and no order in the chapter, but just like whatever resonates with you, open this chapter, learn something hopefully that resonates with you and can improve your life for the better. So Valerie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
From the bottom of my heart.
Pleasure. It was an honor. It was amazing. Blessings in your journey.
Thank you.
And I want that book. I want to buy this book.
Oh, it'll be a podcast free for everyone. Just listen in, tune in. Valerie, please, Valeria, I'm so sorry. Please remind everyone. But Valerie is Valeria in English, right? So technically it's not wrong. But
everyone,
Valeria, please remind everyone how to find you and how to follow your amazing work.
Yeah, so Instagram, AstroVal _ I also have a website, www.astrowithval.com. And you can reach me through there. You can also email me, astrowithval@gmail.com. And I'm here for you. I'm here for any questions. I'm here to guide you. And I'm happy to do this work.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Wishing you all love, many blessings, a lot of light. Thank you.
A lot of abundance.
2020. Yes, 2020. Year full of hoping, a year full of health, wealth, love, and magic.
Yeah.
Aho.
Aho.
Thank you.
Thank you.